Are you ready? Excellent. Well, I'd like to formally welcome everybody to this month's workshop on behalf of the VTA, the Minority Business Consortium, and SVTC. We welcome you to this month's BSV2 Mentor Protege Workshop. I'm Raul Labrin, Vice President and with WSP and also SVTC's Mentor Protege Plan Lead. I'm joined today by Jennifer Mina from VTA's Office of Business Diversity Programs, NBC representatives Reginald Swilley and Carol Beam, as well as our two presenters who I'll introduce in a moment. Today's presentation is our 9th workshop and covers the topic of quality best management practices, a very important topic. Note that today's presentation is being recorded and will be made available. Copies will be made available following the presentation and made available to the public. We won't take time to do formal introductions for everybody on the call, but we ask that you use the chat function to enter your information and introduce yourselves to the group. The presentation is expected to be around 30 to 35 minutes, allowing some time at the end for Q&A. Feel free to raise your hand when we get to that point, or use the Q&A function on Zoom or in the chat area, and we'll field those questions as we go along. I'd like to take a moment to hand it over to Reginald Swilley from NBC to say a few words. Reggie?
Good morning or good afternoon. VTA, along with trying to bring us this shiny new subway system, is wanting to use this project and make sure that this project strengthen our SB and DBE business communities. This information on this 9th workshop is going to help in that process. We hope you have visited these other 8 workshops, but it is important that your company have an opportunity to come in and provide your services on this BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 project. And we are trying to strengthen you so that you can work on this project and beyond. We are really concerned about the SBE, DBE community here in the Bay Area. And that's what these processes have been. These lessons have given us some very good information. And we hope you not just come to this one, but look forward to the ones in the future so that you can bring some value to the construction of this project. VTA have put out, have made sure that these classes have been open to everybody, and we want to make sure that they are of value to you. If there is some information that you want to hear about, get in contact with Raul or me or Carol or Jennifer here at VTA. And as their consultants, we are pushing this ball ahead, and we want to make sure we're doing the work for you. Thank you so much, Raul, and you've been doing some great work, man. So keep this going.
Appreciate that. So with that, further ado, I'd like to introduce our 2 speakers for today. Today's presenters are Kieran Kelly-Sneed and Keith Gilliam. Kieran is a civil engineer and project manager with a background in design and inspection of bridges and tunnels. As an office quality manager for HNTB's Northern California offices, Kieran enforces compliance with HNTB's quality management system, provides training, conducts audits, and reviews and approves project quality plans. Keith is president, CEO of Quality Engineering Company, QEI, a professional services 40-person firm that specializes in quality assurance, quality control, quality management. Mr. Gilliam is a California-based expert in public transit with particular emphasis on quality program management and quality plan development. He and QEI have participated on numerous mega transportation projects, including our own BSV2, where he is currently assigned as the SVTC quality team lead. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Kieran and Keith. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raul. We appreciate the opportunity, and as Reginald said, please reach out to the folks on the attendee sheet and putting this together to participate in the project. We've participated with WSP, HNTB, PGH Wong, Mott McDonald on numerous projects, as Raul mentioned, and we appreciate this opportunity sincerely. I want to go over a little quality management overview now. We'll talk a little bit about this, and Kieran will get into it a little bit more in the presentation. But a lot of people look at what's a successful quality program, the quality organization, the systems, the plans, how we follow a common hierarchy in developing a quality program and the team to support the program. Just briefly, definitions, quality control, the techniques used to assure that a product or service meets the requirements or the goals, quality assurance actions at a management level that directly improve or change QC actions will be successful, including verification that QC was performed as planned. That's a big component of any successful project, having a sound quality program. And with that, a quality management system. This is a formalized system that documents the structure, responsibilities, and procedures required to achieve the effective quality management that's spelled out or required by the FTA, the owner, project specifications, codes, compliances, and so forth. The quality plan is the primary document of the quality management system. And that's typically used by the contractor, subcontractors, if you will. And that includes a quality policy, objectives, and this one includes written procedures on actually how you ensure that the project is built to these quality standards. Then we'll talk about the quality policy, the overall quality intentions, and the direction of an organization with regards to quality determined by top management. So that really spells out that your organization or your firm has a strong commitment to quality, and the material, the supplies, the services that you produce or supply. That said, we talk about several quality management for programs and projects. Owners or agencies, they have their own quality management plan. So BART, VTA, LA Metro, Caltrans, Sound Transit, all these folks have their own QMP that they utilize to not only build projects for purchasing and requirements. So they utilize these plans when they're out buying rail vehicles or rail itself. And that leads into the prime consultant on some of these projects, and that requires the quality management flow from the contract with the owner. So there are additional requirements based on the prime's standards, QMP, and that leads down to the contractors and sub-consultants, and they can follow the prime's QMP, or if they have their own. So if the CP2 design build contractor comes in and is ready to build a project, and their rail supplier comes in and starts supplying rail, that rail supplier can either utilize their own QMP or they can utilize the primes, but their QMP must meet the same exact requirements and specifications as the primes. This is a good example of a org chart. This is the actual Berryessa Silicon Valley Phase 2 org chart, and you can see that quality is aligned at the top, reporting to the pretty much the highest executive level on the program management. This is a mega project built into 4 different contracts and administered by several hundred individuals on the team. So a lot of moving parts, but as you see, quality is right at the top, and expectations flow from that level. We touched briefly on the quality policy, but now I'm going to talk a little bit and define what it is. Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority's goal is to serve the public with the planned, designed, and constructed BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 extension. We look forward that this meets or exceeds the industry's quality standards and to obtain safe, reliable, economic, and convenient mass transit system. So I know it's been a long time coming and folks are really excited about it. This is a mega project. It's going to be very successful. So we're very excited about supporting the quality. The quality program is defined, as we talked about, by the QMS. And the mission of the program is to define the quality goals, objectives, specific quality related activities, and assign responsibilities to ensure the quality responsibilities are planned and executed in a cost and effective and timely manner. So this quality program we put together, we look at all aspects of quality, not just the prime design build contractor, but down to the sub suppliers and manufacturers. The defined implementation and administration of control measures to achieve compliant quality services and work products during design, procurement, construction, installation, testing and inspection, systems testing, and startup, and facility records and turnover phases. So that's from the start to finish, from us starting with the launch box on to 10 years down the road, testing of the vehicles and fixed facilities. The last thing on the policy is it establishes the requirements for contractors performing the management, design, construction, consulting, or other services to commit to establishing plans that define their quality goals and objectives, specify quality related activities, and to assign responsibilities to fully implementing and complying with the quality requirements as defined in the contract documents. So we have a quality policy here. All contract managers have signed on to it, and we have a really robust quality program.
Hi, Keith. Before you continue, we wanted to ask a question or two. One is a poll just to find out what services does your firm primarily provide. So if you would just take a moment, let your brain take in everything that Keith just said, and we'll move from there in a second. So we're waiting for more to participate in the poll. This should be pretty easy, but happy to get this information. It helps us kind of shape the rest of the conversation as we move through other questions. I'm always curious when we get other, I'm assuming maybe testing, probably other things besides that. But those of you who are paying attention, it's great. So we've got 71% participated. I'm going to end the poll and share the results. So about 39% are A&E, 29% construction, and 32% other. Go ahead, Keith.
All right, thank you. And now the big question, why should I have a quality plan? Every firm is responsible for the quality of its own work and deliverables, and I think most folks would agree with that. Right now in the industry, quality has never been a higher related item. Quality and safety are right at the top of the commitment to all the team members. But it also demonstrates your commitment to delivering a quality product or service. So if you're making basically sprockets or widgets, you're making the best widgets and sprockets in the industry, and you definitely want to demonstrate your commitment to that. But also quality plan standardizes the document, the way you perform and check and deliver your quality services or products. So it more or less verifies and validates that you do have a sound quality program, or that you do provide sound quality product. Then again, its specialized services may not be fully covered by the quality plan or your product. So different types of examples of manufacturers and suppliers that are just saying, hey, we just make this little piece of plastic. We really don't have a quality program. Well, there's some aspects of any manufacturer that quality can be related to. So specialized services don't think you don't need a quality program. Trying to say that in a better way. And then it's commonly required by the contract. Most projects of this size and smaller require that the contractors and suppliers either provide a quality plan, as we talked about earlier, or utilize the quality plan or program that's in place. That's all I have for this. Kieran's going to continue with the presentation, and we'll answer some questions at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Carol, do you want to throw up another poll right now? Because we're a little bit curious to know how many participants on today's call already have quality plans.
Hopefully everybody can see this. Do you have a quality management plan? It's yes, no, and I don't know. And then if you do have one, do your staff know where to find it? So those are two important questions, and Kieran is going to help us understand why it's so important as we move forward, just as Keith kind of laid the groundwork for it.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. And as those responses are coming in, we'll just note that, in our opinion, sole proprietors, small companies, medium, large ones, all really should and can have quality plans, right? They may not necessarily be as thorough and complicated. Their quality policy doesn't have to be as long as the one that Keith just shared in that example, but they should be applicable to the kind of work you do. Say something about how you produce it, how you check it, confirm that it's correct, and be written down, something that we can potentially even audit against, right? When we come in occasionally to audit subconsultants, we would like to see, okay, let's look at your plan and let's see if you followed it. So everybody really can have one. They don't have to, they're scalable, right? That's maybe the best way to put it.
So I'm going to end the poll. We have about 77% that participated, and I'll share the results. So 65% do have a quality management plan, 23% no, 13% don't know. And then if you have one, it looks as if all 31 said 55% yes, people know where to find it, and 23% said no. Thank you for sharing that information. It's very helpful moving forward.
Thanks, Carol. And thanks everybody for participating there. So we'll talk about the common elements of a quality program. The FTA 15 elements are a widely recognized model. They're used on FTA funded projects, including this one, the BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 project. If your plan follows these 15 elements in terms of mirroring their structure and their terminology, right, it's a lot easier to integrate it on a project like this or to approve it when you submit it. Even if the project isn't necessarily a FTA funded project or following that, these FTA elements that we'll review are just really helpful way of looking at it. And when it comes across for review, if it's structured that way, it makes the review really easy for the folks on the other side, like myself and Keith, who are steeped in these elements. We say, oh yeah, we can see you've got basically everything that's important. So we'll look at the sort of common structure. You already saw this graph earlier. We talked about a hierarchy, right? And the core elements are the quality plan and quality policy, right? The policy may be right there in the front of the plan. The procedures that explain in detail how you approach quality and how you do it, they sort of step by step commonly. And then the forms, which become records that give the objective evidence of following and adhering to the plan, something that shows how the plan was executed. This example also includes work instructions, right? So maybe some sort of job aids or other supplementary information that supports the quality plan. But it's really driven from the top by the overarching requirements of the plan, supported by the procedures, and then underpinned and documented by those forms. So the 15 elements of a quality program. This is a full list. We'll go through them on the next couple slides. And depending on the type of work you do, the project phase, some of these may not really apply, but they're all there. They're documented. You can get this online. We'll have a link at the end. And the icons up here represent elements that are maybe a more common focus in a designer's plan versus a contractor's plan, or something that really sort of belong in and typically expected in both. So I'll give a quick example at HNTB here. We're primarily designers, engineers, and architects. So our design quality plan includes very, very little about elements 8 and 9 related to inspection, testing, and related equipment, because we usually rely on somebody else to perform those services. If we prepare technical specifications, then our plan requires us to include the relevant requirements for inspection and testing, but otherwise it doesn't say a lot about inspection and testing. And of course, if that's the kind of work that you do at your firm, we expect your quality plan will cover it heavily, and that's why we set up above, maybe the quality plan from your prime doesn't really get into enough detail about the kind of work that you do and is typical for you, and that's why it would make a lot of sense for you to have a plan. So let's talk about the remainder of the elements kind of in a little bit more detail. Number 1, the management responsibility. Articulating management's responsibility and commitment gives the plan authority. Leadership for quality reports at a high level, so that demonstrates that authority and the independence, right? Somebody who really has the power to speak to issues when they arrive and to surface those issues directly to management, right? So that's really key, very important that management stands behind it. A documented system, right? This is specifying the elements of your QMS and the scope of their applicability. So, does this apply to the services that you do? Does it apply to somebody else's? Does it flow down to subconsultants? Just not necessarily heavily detailed section, but explain clearly how the plan applies. Design control. Obviously, this is a huge component of a designer's quality plan, such as HNTB's. Design inputs and requirements are documented and verified. Outputs are subject to QC. There's quality control check, as Keith mentioned. And then quality assurance is performed, right, to confirm that the required process was followed. Very important. We always follow up that checking with the quality assurance. People often say QA/QC. You see that a lot. We try to flip it around, because really the quality control, the QC comes first. The quality assurance follows it to verify. A quick example of design control. So these are QC records for design documents from this project, showing what's outlined in the procedures, right? So the procedures of the plan explain the roles, the responsibility, the process for doing the check, the revisions, the verifications, and the records demonstrate that process here. So the checker marked something up in red, things that were okay were highlighted, and we have a record of the conversation. So these become permanent quality records of the program, and this is what the quality manager reviews during the quality assurance to see if the records are there, if they're filed, and does that before turning it in. Moving on, document control. That's important for everyone, because it describes how versions are kept current, right? Making sure we're using the right version of something, critical on a project. We don't want to be using old copies. Sometimes that pops up in investigations of what went wrong here. Oh, well, we had an old version. Purchasing. This is important clearly for contractors and fabricators, but designers also purchase services from subconsultants. So those services can impact their work, and it's important that if you've bought something, it didn't meet your expectations, both your contract and your quality plan can protect you, right? If your contract includes the appropriate terms in it, that helps. So, one of the things that would be in our contract and in our quality plan is, when we issue a contract, that the contract is issued with quality requirements. some of the other common examples of things that would go into purchasing, right? The Buy America, the certifications, those requirements for what it is you're buying. Traceability, that's key for fabricators and contractors, clearly, helping to ensure that the correct and qualifying items are used or installed, right? Do we have the information we need about what was bought, where it went, mill certifications. So, the owners, the contracts, the purchase agreements commonly require mill certs, certificates of compliance. This is one for rebar. So we know what was purchased. We probably even know when it was delivered, maybe even which element of the structure it was put into, which day it was used sometimes. And the bridge in the background sort of is just another example there. Raul mentioned up front that I'm a bridge designer. And in my career, I've been involved with evaluations of 90-year-old structures, bridges, where the owner has as-built records that document the actual strength and properties of the steel that was used in the main members, right? So we have traceability for bridges built 90 years ago through essentially, summaries of the mill test. So they were doing it back then. We still do it today. And it's really helpful to us now as designers. When we look back, we want to evaluate the strength of the structure. We know not just the design strength in some cases, we know the actual true mill certification that went along with it, so we can better understand and evaluate the structure. The next several elements here kind of related: process control, making sure that the steps are performed in the correct order, right? That's critical in construction. If things are out of order, sometimes the construction doesn't turn out the way you wanted it to. So particularly with epoxy, you gotta do this, do this, do this. Otherwise, you don't get the strength that was designed. Inspection and testing, right? That helps confirm that we're getting what we planned on, and closely related with several other elements, of course. Uncalibrated measuring equipment, right? So if we have uncalibrated equipment, that may be worse than no equipment at all, right? If we don't have a measuring stick, or we don't have the survey equipment, at least we know we're guessing. But if we're relying on equipment whose certification is out of date and who's not properly calibrated, then we may be improperly relying on the measurements that we think are accurate, but they're not. So clearly that's very important to know that the equipment was calibrated. Testing example, very common, right? Concrete compression tests. So quality plans at multiple levels refer to these elements with different levels of detail in terms of you have to have a test or you have to have it in the specification. In this case, the process is defined by ASTM standards, also required by the building code, the contract, and then the equipment for performing the test, the machines there, right? Those are maintained and calibrated by the lab. So the laboratory's quality plan hopefully discusses how they maintain records of the calibrations, maybe frequency for calibrating their different machines. They have a list of the machines that they have. And so if we went to audit a lab, they could show us that. And we say, oh yeah, good. Your equipment's all up to date and you've kept it current. So another just quick note, these two ASTM standards that I'm showing here, they were both actually revised in 2021. We might have old versions floating around somewhere, but when we need to rely on a document, our quality plan, the document control section, tells us what to do about finding current versions, right? So hopefully folks know, oh yeah, we have to go seek out the current version. At HNTB, we're big enough that we have a subscription to ASTM. So if we really need to know what's in the current version, we can go get that from our subscription service versus, the copy that's floating around on your server or on your computer or whatever. So inspection and test status, right? This is closely related to those ones we just discussed. Do we know the status of the required tests? Commonly the contractor, the resident engineer are keeping track, right, of that. And so their associated plans are laying out the requirements for them to keep track of it. Non-conformance and corrective action, these two really go hand in hand. So to identify, deal with, and prevent work that doesn't meet requirements, whether it's something that has already happened and we need to fix, or something that we see potential nonconformities arising, we want to come up with a preventive action plan. Those two typically work together. And these are some examples of corrective action request form, right? So these are ones from, again, this project that we're talking about today. You know, the corrective action request form describes the problem, right? Then we got the middle part, the root cause, understand the root cause and the action plan to either fix it or to prevent recurrence. And then lastly, element to verify, to confirm that the action was taken, and maybe even to check that it was successful. Project also commonly has a log to keep track of those, right? So we know the status by looking at the log. Are they addressed or not? And now we're coming to the last three elements. Again, the first two here, quality records and audits, those are pretty tightly related. The records are crucial, right? Every plan should include procedures for establishing and maintaining records. Retention schedules might be dictated by the contract or law. But the other thing really keep in mind on quality records would be, if you don't have a record, then how can you prove that it happened, right? The record's really, really important here. So when something goes wrong, or we want to know how something got to be the way it was, we're often going back to the quality records to see what the story was. Audits. So when we perform an audit, of course, we're looking at largely at the quality records. They're a form of quality assurance to help management confirm the plan is being implemented, to identify areas for improvement. We perform those, of course, on large projects, but also on small ones. The last element here is training. So training includes requirements that staff are appropriately qualified for the work they perform. That should include, training to the quality plan. There should be some training records required. This also, of course, may relate to your engineering designers need to have engineering degrees, or the people who perform the testing need to be properly certified by some other outside authorities, and maybe you keep the certificates somewhere in a central place for your staff. So these don't necessarily have to be heavily detailed sections of a quality plan, but lay out the requirements, state it, and we can audit and measure against it. So we'll wrap up with a summary here of what we really like to see in a quality plan when a sub-consultant submits one to us and we're reviewing it. Firstly, the quality plan is signed and dated, right? Demonstrates management's commitment, the review and approval. It identifies key management positions and an individual responsible for quality. And as Keith said, as we said up top, that person should really report basically to the top level of management. The quality policy clearly states your intentions with respect to quality. The plan includes requirements and procedures to control and verify the product, service, and related equipment, right? So that's including the quality control, the quality assurance, aspects related to measuring and testing, if that's really what you do, or purchasing and receiving, right? Do we have the right stuff? Did it arrive? And did we unpack it and know that we got what we ordered? All those kinds of things. Document control requirements, right? Ensuring that current versions are in use. Describing the quality records that demonstrate objectively that you fulfilled the plan. A commitment to continual improvement through corrective and preventive action, audits, lessons learned, right? So a quality plan that sits on the shelf and is stale and doesn't get updated when new findings come out, that room for improvement. So we want to see that there's a mechanism to update the plan. The plan identifies the training requirements, right? So staff understand and follow the plan, and so that they're appropriately qualified for the work they're doing. And lastly, that in the case that this is related to a specific contract, that the contract specific elements and requirements are incorporated, right? So we saw that BSV2 quality policy, and the last bullet on there had to do with suppliers and subconsultants and contractors all providing plans that meet the overall program goals and plan. So, if your plan is built on these FTA elements, like we said, it's much more easy to review and incorporate those into a program like this when you join a big project. And now we've got time for questions.
Awesome. I remind everyone, if you have specific questions, go ahead and enter them in the Q&A area on Zoom. While you're thinking about questions, I certainly have generated my own. I'm sure others on the panel may have as well, but I'll start off with you, Keith, specific to the BSV2 program, phase 2 program. What are the biggest challenges as it relates to quality? What are you seeing, and anything you can let the community know about how to get better with quality?
Yeah, the quality on the project for the most part has been sound and very good. The few problems that we have seen has just been folks working in different silos that everyone's experiencing, you know, in the industry right now, where we aren't all together in the same office. Every once in a while, we'll miss a review or comment or something where in the past, you've been able to walk down the hall and say, hey, Raul, what did you mean by this comment? Or what's this squiggly line here? But sometimes when we're working in different areas, we can't address some of the little details and minute elements that sometimes get missed, and then we pick them up in the audit. But if I were going to say anything, it's just been everyone being away, and now that we are having a relocation program of folks starting to come back to the office, I think that will take care of it.
Forget about the time of COVIDs that we're in. That's a really good point. We did get a couple of questions. This one from Ralph. Please elaborate on how a firm's safety plan is integrated with a firm's quality management plan or system. Keith or Kieran?
Go ahead, Kieran, you take that.
Thanks, that's a super question. So, you know, we often see on a project, depending on the kind of work you do, I guess, there's also a project management plan. And so there's sometimes several high-level management documents, you know, a safety plan, a quality plan, you know, management plan, maybe a budget and schedule plan. Sometimes those are interrelated, and the management plan often is the tie together, right? It says, okay, if for safety, see the safety plan. But, you know, think about the document control element. If you've got a safety plan and it's outdated, or people are working from multiple versions, right? So the quality plan may overlap in some ways or govern, you know, sharing the safety plan may even govern the review of the safety plan, right? So even though it's not a deliverable, you might have something in your quality plan, is particularly if safety is a big thing, what you do, you know, how are the revisions reviewed and controlled, the versions? Who's responsible to make a revision? So something common in an FTA management, or excuse me, quality plan land is the expectation that when a document is revised, the original people who prepared it and reviewed it should normally be the people who prepare the revision and approve the revision. So in that way, you know, the quality plan might speak to how the safety plan got its update.
Excellent. Next question is from Ming, and I'm gonna interpret this, Ming. So if I say something incorrect, let me know. But effectively, the statement is quality is definitely required on projects. Is there any cost-benefit analysis done, studies done in the industry that bear that out?
Well, I'm not specifically aware of studies relating to quality plans and, you know, implementing them and how that all, you know, shakes out. But, you know, one big example and kind of a tragic one, maybe a few years ago, people remember there was a pedestrian bridge that collapsed in Florida in 2018. And in that case, the investigation ultimately found that the designer was responsible. They had misdesigned a key and important connection, and the essentially expected quality processes maybe weren't adequately followed. But it resulted in 6 people losing their lives. And for the designer of record, they were actually disbarred from federal contracting for a period of 10 years. So, missing on quality can have huge implications for your reputation, for your ability to, perform future work. And, that's why, particularly at HNTB and many other firms, we put quality very, very high on our list of priorities, right? Because if we mess up there, then everything else is at risk, right? We might have to redo work at our own expense. That has happened to us and other people too, right? The client says, this is no good. You guys really messed up and we're not going to pay for you to redo it. So yeah, no, the financial implications are huge.
Yeah, I would
Absolutely.
imagine liability. I mean, it's an insurance policy, really, that you are not the one responsible for something going wrong because you've kept records and you've checked and you have a plan and someone's responsible. So I just wanted to underscore everything you said, Kieran, and how important, and Keith, how important this is. There are some other questions, Raul, you're gonna.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody for adding questions. We'll keep going. I'm going to skip around here a little bit. The specific question from Jennifer: how do you see systems assurance relate with QMS? Is systems assurance addressed in the BSV2 project?
Absolutely. When you say systems assurance, the CP1 contract is for systems, and they have a robust design QC program. They're putting out RFQs, RFPs right now, and quality will be attached to that throughout the life of that contract, both from the program management, the construction management, and then the winning contractor on CP1, the systems contractor. So big component there, not just making sure the lights come on, but did we put enough conduit in to ensure that we have enough wiring to feed the traction power or the train control systems. It's a long process, and quality is quite involved. So good question.
Okay, moving on. Ching asks, usually there's a project procedures manual. How does the quality plan relate to that? Or does it? Or should it?
Kieran, you take that.
Yeah, so procedures manual, I guess, again, that kind of ties into the management plans and what is the hierarchy of documents on the program, which ones govern what. Again, same with the quality plan, right? Having its defined scope. So, the quality procedures typically live within the quality plan, and they're very, very specific to how you execute with respect to quality. You may have a lot of other procedures on a project or in an organization that don't specifically relate to quality, and they may be separate and outside, but the two may reference each other.
Yeah, I mean, I would typically, there would be a specific reference in the quality or in the project procedures plan specific to the QMP and where to get it and who to talk to and all those things that are very specific to the QMP. So great question.
I wanted to follow up on, there was a link in the chat that said that people can get a copy of the FDA's guidelines. And so make sure you pay attention to that. But for people who are not used to doing kind of a quality management plan, are there standardized forms, and can we get links to those so that we know, so that people can kind of know what's expected?
Absolutely. The FTA pretty much lays it out as Kieran said, but there's several examples, just through Google on quality management plans. They're out there across the board. But if you're looking for a template for one, that's a little bit harder. There are some software programs that you can acquire and employ that can help you with procedures and things like that. But there's nothing that you can just take right off the shelf, if you will, for a quality management plan.
I'll chip in. On our next slide, we have a couple links, one to the American Society for Quality and one to the FTA guidelines that we referred to. The guidelines include an appendix with a sample plan. And also just start small with the stuff that's most urgently needed with respect to the work you do and build from there. Of course, on contracts, you may also get copies from your prime. So you may have quality plan examples that you get that way. Sometimes they're even out with the solicitations from the owners.
Why don't you go ahead and flip to the next slide, so give people some time to look at those
I
references.
will put the links in there, but there's another question from Antoine. So
Yeah, I'm not going to stop on the
Okay.
questions. Just wanted to get to the
no, okay.
show the slide.
I'm also adding the links in the chat.
Appreciate that. So Antoine has a detailed question, Keith, and maybe this might have to be taken offline, but let's ask the question anyway. Has any determination been made recently as to how the testing and special inspection scope will be split between owner QA versus contractor QC for BSV2? Rough percentages, perhaps. Also, is owner QA expected to be placed under CP5, a CM contract? And I don't know if we can even say anything about this, but that's the question, Keith. Let us know. And you're on mute, sorry.
I'm going to defer on that one. I'll talk a little bit about the quality, but as far as the next steps and procurements, I'm going to leave that one alone, as we all know. Right now, the program management has been providing the QA oversight for the last, I'd say, 3 years solidly. And as we move forward, there will be additional quality elements added to procurement contracts, both throughout the design build and further down the road.
Perfect. Okay, there's 2 more posted questions. I think we can get through them. The next one is back to Ralph. Thank you, Ralph. Is it possible to obtain a copy of the owner agency QMP? I'm assuming for BSV2. Is that readily available, Keith? And if it is, how do you get hold of it?
Well, right now that's still in review, and it's not really a public document. But what we do have are quality management plans that have been put out by BART that are public information, and VTA that we can provide a link, or you can go directly to their websites and download the plans themselves. I believe BART has a district-wide quality management plan and a core capacity for the owner itself, and VTA also has 2, one being specifically, I believe, for capital projects as a standalone. But I know you can get those plans from BART's site, and I'm pretty sure the same with VTA.
Excellent. The last posted question is from Ming. Thanks, Ming. The question is basically about scalability. Can you talk a little bit about how these plans can and should be scaled, I guess, based on the size of the project?
I'll take it. Starting from a sole proprietor, right? We could imagine a plan that's just one or 2 pages. Right? Talks about your commitment to quality. Talks about maybe how you save things and manage current versions. How you ensure that something was the right information to go into the design or the work product. Maybe it's a report you write. And then what you do when you're going to check the report before it goes out the door. You might just put into your quality plan, even though I wrote it myself, I'm responsible for checking it, and I will run spell check every time. One thing that we do at HNTB, we print it out of Word into PDF, or then maybe even to a printer, and look at the hard copy as a last step before it goes out. Having a visual check, it kind of helps us with two things. One is it makes sure that the thing gets converted properly. The two is you might see something you didn't see before when you give it that last look. So, really, really small and brief, all the way up to, 100 pages. But I think what would be most helpful to think about would be, commonly, if you're going to be a sub-consultant, your plan is going to, fit in some other way to this overall quality structure of the project. So, think most deeply about the work that your own company is providing, and write up something that explains, who's responsible for the work, who's responsible to both prepare it and to review it, who has the ultimate responsibility. Clearly, it's ownership and management. And like we said before, if you're aligning with these elements, then, typically it's easier to make it scalable and to fit into other projects. Keith, you add anything, or Raul?
No, I think
No.
in terms of scalability, you've nailed it. It is every project is unique. I'll leave it at that. The plan should reflect that. Great. Okay, that addresses all the listed questions. Before we sign off, I would like to turn it over to Jennifer from the VTA to talk about upcoming events.
So before you launch, Jennifer, I put a little teaser in because we've got some new information for those of you who are registered as a vendor. Jennifer's going to do that, but and also just how do you get ready to bid? So I'm going to launch a poll. Is that okay, Jennifer? And then you can respond. So first, are you a registered vendor with VTA? And then Jennifer's going to help you understand that you might not know you are, or you might think you are, but you might not be. So we're going to give you some extra information.
Yes. Well, thank you, Carol. It seems as we've been doing a lot of this type of outreach with NBC, we're finding out that there's a bit of confusion. Some folks believe if they are a certified SBE or a certified MWBE or DBE or some other BE out there, that if they are certified through VTA, that they're also in our procurement system to receive all of the bids. And that is not the case. So we want to encourage folks to certify, if you feel like you qualify, and we would love for you to certify as an SBE or a DBE, and you can find that at vta.sbdbe.com. You can actually go in and look at the 3 types of certifications that VTA has. However, we also want to encourage you to go on to our procurement system and register there as a vendor. And you can find that link through, now, Carol, I've just drawn a blank, VTA.
To register
As a vendor.
Yeah, when you register through the Business Center, once you're registered, then you just click on portal, and you can gain access. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, actually, I'm trying to think of the web address. It's really easy, and I can flip over there real quick. I'm so sorry. I'm
going to stop sharing this and do the second poll while you're getting busy to do that.
It's at procurenow.com/portal/VTA. So it's 2 different sites. You can get to the Procure Now portal through the VTA homepage. But we want to make sure that we do make that distinction that certifying, with a small business certification is different than registering as a vendor with VTA. So this is great, though. And if you have questions about how to certify or how to sign up and register, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. You can get me at jennifer.mena vta.org.
So most of the folks on this webinar are certified. 5% are not, and 5% are in process.
Perfect.
Looks as if people who qualify but not certified, they're just not on this call. So that, or they didn't register. The important thing to know for those of you who are not a vendor with VTA, you are not able to bid on any of their contracts, including the BART Phase 2. So make sure you become a vendor, and to register with VTA, you just go there and you do that. And we will, on another occasion, give you more information about how to actually work that system, because it may be a little confusing. So.
Yeah, perfect. And actually, I do see that you have links here, which is great. They're different than what I gave you, but you can get there both ways.
Yes, good, good. And the Procure Now is now called OpenGov. So make sure you are aware of that. And the next thing is we want to make sure that next Tuesday you register for the Bay Area Diversity Business Forum. Mass Electric Construction and Kiewit Construction, who are both on the short list of firms with Bay Area, with BSV2, will be presenting, but they're not just presenting things about available contracting opportunities with BART Phase 2, but also broader scale. So we really want you to have opportunities to grow your firm and get more and more experience. And so make sure you register for the next Tuesday, noon to 1:30 event. And Jennifer, then there's also BOC. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have the Business Outreach Committee has a Meet the Buyers Procurement Forum next Thursday, 11 to noon. And for those of you who are not familiar with the BOC, or the Business Outreach Committee, it is a consortium of Bay Area transit and transportation agencies that work together to assist DBEs and SBEs through training, providing technical assistance and relationship building with agency staff and the contracting community of the San Francisco Bay Area. And so basically the area that we cover is, from Santa Rosa down to Sacramento, down to Rio Vista, Livermore, San Jose, all the way around to Santa Cruz and then back up. So it's a large area of transit and transportation agencies. And I think this would be a really good event for folks to come in and sit in on and meet the buyers. So hope we see you there.
Great. I think it's back to me. Thank you, everybody. We're at the top of the hour. I'd like to thank Kieran and Keith for the great presentation, and thank you all for your questions. Just a quick reminder, we're not going to have a workshop in January as we're coming back from the holidays, but the next event is scheduled in February. There's going to be a business development and a hybrid environment discussion. So look out for that information. Reminder that this was recorded, that the copies that will be made available, a link was provided in the chat. And with that, I'd like to say happy holidays, and we look forward to getting back together in 2022 with you all. And thank you all.
There was one, I'm sorry, Raul, I wanted to mention, someone asked about the BOC event. Is it for contractors only?
Contract,
Kathy, can you
elaborate maybe?
Yeah. Are you saying for construction, or you said for contractors only?
I mean, it's for any small business, any DBE to meet the buyers, honestly, any business to meet the buyers.
Yes, anybody on this, absolutely. If you have a company that you want to meet the buyers with, this is exactly where you want to be.
I think it'd be a great opportunity for everyone on here
Yes.
to come and participate. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you,
All right.
Raul. Thank you from HNTB. You guys did a great job. Blessings. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Take
all.
care.
Have a great holiday.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.